Did you give them my details?
Because you give me your details.
Right, that's against the law. It's a breach of my personal data. You should not have done that. You have not. You should not have done that.
This episode comes from Auditor Brett Chamberlain, so make sure to check the link below, subscribe to his channel, and give him the credit he deserves. In this case, Brett delivers another explosive coin audit. After fueling up at a Sainsbury's petrol station, he attempts to pay using pure silver Royal Mint coins, legal tender in the UK. But instead of accepting them, the staff refuse payment, call the police, and even tosses money around. When the officer arrives, things only get worse. She's clearly out of her depth, misstates the law, and tramples over Brett's rights so badly that he ends up having to call his lawyer on the spot. The situation gets so absurd that even her own inspector later admits she'll have to be retrained after this incident. Before we dive in, a huge shout out to T for joining RTA Extra. In a time when freedom of speech and civil rights are being pushed to their limits, standing together matters more than ever. By joining RTA Extra, you're not just unlocking exclusive content, you're supporting independent journalism and helping me continue this mission to keep public accountability alive. If you'd like to support too, hit that join button below. Every bit of support helps keep these stories coming. Now, let's get into today's video.
With the coins as tender, obviously it is legal tender, you are correct, but as Sainsbury's we aren't obliged to take that because we are unable to bank that here, so unfortunately we will have to ask for some other means of payment to purchase that fuel.
What do you think legal tender actually means?
Pardon?
What do you think legal tender means?
I'm not into a debate about that. We're not accepting that as a tender here. It's a private company.
So you accept it as legal tender?
Yeah, but we can't bank that here. We don't have the means to bank it, so we don't accept it.
That's not my problem if you can't bank it, is it?
Well, yeah, but we don't accept it.
Well, you already have.
No, we haven't. You just put it down.
No, I gave it to the lady and she put it in her hand.
So, have you got any other means of payment?
That is my means of payment.
So, have you not got any other means?
But that is my means of payment.
Well, and we can't accept that means.
Brett highlights a crucial legal point when the worker actually takes the coins into her hand. At that exact moment, the debt was discharged and payment had been made. Under UK law, once a debt exists, legal tender must be accepted. Yes, a store can refuse Royal Mint coins if that policy is clearly set before the transaction, but this wasn't one of those cases. The fuel was already in the car, meaning the goods had been consumed, and that created a debt. Once a debt exists, refusing lawful payment is no longer a matter of policy. It's a breach of obligation. The worker physically accepted the coins, which legally counts as payment. You can't take lawful tender, hold it, and then claim it doesn't count just because it's inconvenient or unfamiliar. This is exactly where both Sainsbury's staff and later the police officer went wrong. They confused what was convenient for them with what was lawful.
Have you got another means of payment, or do we just need to process it as a civil recovery issue?
Well, I've paid.
Well, you haven't. We haven't accepted it.
You don't need to. Well, you have accepted it. Well, I haven't got the money, have I? You've got the money.
Well, we can give it back to you.
Well, I don't want it back. Are you a police officer?
Yes.
Right, can you identify yourself, please? What number are you?
1866, Bridgewater Police Station.
Mrs. Bradshaw, Miss Bradshaw.
That's correct. Miss.
Right, Miss.
Sorry.
Right.
So they've asked for another form of payment because they can't accept this form. Have you got another form of payment on you?
That is my payment.
Right, okay, but that's not tender that they can accept.
Yes, it is.
They're asking for another form
Yes,
of payment.
it is. Let me explain something to you. So when you was training to be a police officer at the beginning, you swore an oath, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what the first sentence of the oath was? It was to serve the Queen faithfully.
Correct.
Right. Now those coins are legal tender by royal proclamation of the Queen herself.
Okay.
Right. She's authorised within the legislation for the Royal Mint to create those coins, and when she proclaimed them to be legal tender, she said that they are legal tender for payment throughout the United Kingdom.
When the officer arrives, she doesn't investigate or verify the facts. She simply parrots what the Sainsbury's staff told her, as if a store policy somehow overrides national law. Brett immediately cuts through that nonsense by reminding her of the oath she swore when she became a police officer to serve the Crown faithfully. And that's where her entire argument collapses. These weren't random coins. They were legal tender declared by royal proclamation under Section 2 of the Coinage Act 1971. It's the Crown, through the Royal Mint, that determines what qualifies as legal tender in the UK, not supermarket policy, and not police convenience. Brett wasn't quoting opinion or internet hearsay. He was citing the very legal authority she's sworn to uphold. By directly linking her oath to the royal proclamation, Brett exposed just how absurd and uninformed her stance truly was.
Take goods, and they've allowed me to take goods, and then pay after the event. When the fuel goes into my vehicle, it becomes my fuel, but then it becomes a debt. Okay, now, the whole point of legal tender is that you can use it to pay a debt. As the Queen said, it's for payment throughout the United Kingdom. So they don't have to accept it, and if they was to give it back to me, it would negate the debt. Okay, it's not a police matter, it's a civil dispute. So really, you know, I mean, really, you should be telling them that it's a civil dispute.
I've just spoken to them and said about the document whereby you can come back and pay within 24 hours. They're saying that they don't want to accept the tender that you've given them. Is there an alternative method?
I'm not going to pay in any other way, I've already paid. Okay, and regarding that document, it's called a no means to pay document, isn't it? Right, I'm not filling out a no means to pay document when I have got the means to pay and I've paid. It's almost like an acceptance that I haven't got the means to pay when I have.
What the officer tried to push onto Brett was a no means to pay document, a form fuel stations use when a customer genuinely can't pay at the time of purchase. It's meant for situations where someone forgets their wallet, their card declines, or they simply have no money on them. By signing it, the customer acknowledges a debt and agrees to return later to settle it. But that system only applies when there's no means of payment available. Brett, on the other hand, had legal tender in his hand, fully backed by the Royal Mint. That alone removes this case entirely from the no means to pay category. By insisting he fill out that form, both the officer and Sainsbury's were effectively trying to rewrite reality, pretending a lawful payment didn't exist simply because they didn't want to accept it.
Your name, please?
No. Oh, yes you will, because I'm driving.
Sorry?
Yes you can, because I'm driving. Sorry. There you go. Although technically, parked up on private land. I'll be going soon, as soon as I've finished dealing with it.
Is that the money?
No, I don't want that. If you give it back, then it goes to debt. Did you see that, officer? Officer?
Yes,
I've paid and she's thrown the money back in.
They've asked for another form of
No,
payment.
she's thrown the money back in.
Okay.
Do you understand? Can you explain to them that that negates the debt? You can't pay someone and then they just throw the money back at you.
Do you pay for it?
Do you want to remind them of that?
So that's the details of the transactions there, okay?
Ma'am, can you show it to me? I paid it though.
Yeah, but it's unacceptable tender.
Officer, did you witness them give me the coins back, didn't you? When I have paid, yeah?
I've witnessed them give you the coins back. I've also witnessed them say that it's unacceptable tender. They're not willing to accept it. Therefore, they've asked for another form of payment. You haven't provided it, so that's hence why they're giving you the form.
Well, I don't want that.
When the officer asked Brett for his name while he was sitting in his car, he was legally required to provide it. And here's why. Under the Road Traffic Act 1988, any driver of a motor vehicle on a public road or in a public place must give their name and address when requested by a constable in uniform. That obligation applies regardless of the reason for the stop. So in that specific moment, because Brett was behind the wheel, he had no lawful option but to comply. But what happened next made the situation deeply questionable. Just moments later, a Sainsbury's worker appeared holding a no means to pay form, already filled out with Brett's personal details. The issue: Brett never signed or consented to that document, and he had already made it clear he was paying with legal tender. So the real question becomes, how did they get his information?
You give these coins back to her, or can you keep them as evidence?
I'm not giving the coins back.
Well, you do realise it negates the debt anyway.
They haven't accepted
Well, I don't want that either, and that's nothing to do with me. I would like a receipt though, please.
You've been
I
served
can't
with
give you a
it.
receipt. The transaction's still outstanding, I'm afraid.
Do they have to give me a receipt for VAT purposes?
You haven't paid
I
them
have
because
paid.
they haven't accepted the tender.
I have paid. They had it in their hand. They threw it back in the car.
Okay, but they
you
haven't
witnessed
accepted,
they threw it back
haven't
in.
accepted the tender, so therefore there isn't a
So
payment.
it's for, as I said to you earlier, the Queen said that
I
these.
understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and you've obviously done your research.
Yeah.
What they're saying is it's not acceptable form of tender. They're not accepting it, therefore the debt hasn't been paid.
But you're an
hence
officer of the
why-
law, aren't you? You're a sergeant or just a PC?
PC. Hence
Yeah.
why they've given you this, because they want you to pay in another acceptable form of tender.
So what do you think? If they said that they didn't want to accept a £50 note and threw the £50 notes back in, yeah, and then gave me that, would you think that's reasonable?
Well, you
Or £20
have to offer
notes.
another form of payment.
Brett flips the entire argument on its head with a razor-sharp example. If someone hands over a £50 note and the store throws it back, then insists they fill out a no means to pay form, would anyone seriously call that fair? The logic is identical here. Once legal tender is offered, the debt is discharged. Refusing it isn't Brett's failure, it's theirs. Yet the officer still doesn't grasp the point. Instead of recognizing the legal principle, she hides behind the same hollow argument that Brett should offer another form of payment. But that's not the law. That's merely store preference dressed up as authority. By siding with convenience over legality, she transformed a civilly settled debt into a criminalized confrontation, and in doing so, her entire position collapsed under its own ignorance.
To say I had 50s and £20 notes, okay, and I went in there to pay them, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we don't accept those," right? Yeah, but even though this is theoretical, yeah, we don't accept those, and I say, "Well, I've paid, and I've left the money on the counter," and they came and threw them back in the car. Would you still be saying that it's up to me to pay in some other way?
But they just said that's an acceptable form of tender.
Yeah, but it's not down to them as to whether it's acceptable or not. It's down to the state.
They don't deem that acceptable.
It's down to the state. It's not for
Okay,
them to
right.
choose.
Well, they've served you with this. They
I
haven't
don't-
accepted payment.
I don't want that. That's nothing to do with me.
Right, okay, well, you've seen it. She's shown you it,
Yep.
okay?
I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is. What is it?
It's
I haven't
because you-
signed any. What is it? No means to pay form or something like that. How did they get my details? Did you give them my details?
Because you've given me your details.
Right, that's against the law. It's a breach of my personal data. You should not have
You
done
haven't
that.
paid.
You have not. You should not
haven't
have done
paid.
that.
You haven't paid.
You know that. You should not have done that.
You haven't paid.
As the officer holds up the no means to pay form, Brett immediately spots something outrageous. His name is already filled in. Without missing a beat, he asks the obvious question: how did they get my details? Incredibly, the officer admits she gave them to the store, justifying it by saying he had already provided them to her. That's not just careless. It's a serious breach of GDPR and data protection law. The officer obtained Brett's personal details under the Road Traffic Act, powers that are strictly confined to road traffic matters. Handing that information over to a private company in what is clearly a civil dispute is completely unlawful. Police officers have a duty to protect personal data, not distribute it whenever it's convenient for a retailer. Yet instead of addressing this blatant violation, the officer doubles down, repeating the same empty line: "You haven't paid." This was a total failure of duty, an officer misusing her authority to serve a supermarket's interests, while trampling over an individual's rights and breaking data protection law in the process. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was shocking misconduct.
You've given them. I'll be lodging a complaint about this.
Okay,
You know
are
you're
you
going to be in
accepting-
trouble for
are
that,
you
don't you?
accepting the details?
No.
You're not.
You know that you're going to be in trouble for that, don't you? Because you're not allowed to give them my personal details. Breach of my data. Police giving private corporation my details. They threw the money back in the car. We'll be lodging a complaint with 101, I think, straight away.
In his update, Brett reveals how the complaint played out, and it's jaw-dropping. The police responded by claiming the officer did nothing wrong, effectively endorsing behavior that encouraged a private corporation to refuse legal tender, throw it back into a customer's car, and misuse police powers to retrieve personal data under the Road Traffic Act. That's not doing nothing wrong. That's blurring the line between public authority and corporate convenience. It shows how a single officer's ignorance can be reinforced by an entire system more interested in protecting itself than upholding the law. Brett was absolutely right when he called this a fraudulent situation. By using his details obtained through the police, Sainsbury's was able to falsely complete a no means to pay form, essentially fabricating a contract he never agreed to. That's the real scandal. The officer didn't just misunderstand the law. She enabled a corporation to exploit police powers to cover its own mistake. In a later response, Brett explained that while his lawyer confirmed he had a strong case, it wasn't worth pursuing in court. But even without a lawsuit, the fallout was significant. The officer's own inspector admitted she would be retrained, a quiet bureaucratic confession that she had acted improperly. When an officer needs retraining after one encounter, it's proof the citizen knew the law better than the police enforcing it. What makes this story truly astonishing is how quickly a simple act of payment became a public lesson in policing gone wrong. Brett wasn't aggressive or evasive. He was calm, factual, and exercising a basic legal right to settle a debt using official legal tender. Yet the entire situation spiraled because both the Sainsbury's staff and the attending officer prioritized corporate policy over national legislation. Instead of de-escalating, the officer amplified the confusion, parroting misinformation as if store policy overrode statute. Meanwhile, Brett's sharp, reasoned responses exposed just how wrong they both were. His £50 note analogy perfectly dismantled their logic, showing that once goods are provided, refusal of payment isn't business preference, it's breach of obligation. By the end, the officer had no legal ground left to stand on, and her unlawful sharing of his personal data only compounded the failure. In the end, Brett didn't just defend himself, he educated thousands. His composure, knowledge, and integrity turned what should have been a minor payment dispute into a masterclass in standing firm against unlawful pressure. The message is crystal clear. Know your rights, stand your ground, and never let authority, corporate or police, twist the law for their own convenience. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me continue my independent coverage. And of course, check out Brett Chamberlain. His channel is linked in the description. Show him some love.